Well, we are literally on the doorstep of a brand new fishing season. And of course, that means a new set of regulations are coming out. And I guess depending on who you talk to, that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. But I think for my next guest, it is indeed a good thing. A real pleasure to welcome back Dave Park. He is he's now the director of fish and wildlife policy over at Alberta Environment and Parks. Dave, good morning, and thanks for taking some time. I know you're just incredibly busy right now.
You're right, Michael. It's busy times, but I'm really I'm happy to connect and looking forward.
So, as I said, we are literally releasing new fishing regulations. Talk a little bit about maybe at the 10,000 foot level in terms of what you see as some of the big takeaways going into this fishing season.
Okay, well, first off, I'm going to show, because I have a printed copy of the guide that will be available at vendors very soon. So one thing I will say about the cover of the guide, you'll notice that there's some photos on there. And some of those photos have been contributed by members of Alberta's Fish and Game Association that were asked to provide photos along the theme of keep them wet, showing really good examples of good fish handling practices when catching and releasing fish. So we're really happy with the guide, and some great photos taken from Albertans out fishing last summer. So nice to see. In terms of some of the highlights, what anglers are going to see this year, there's going to be some additional fish harvest opportunities, and at a few water bodies, there's going to also be some changes to some management of some of the stock trout ponds, and not a large number, but a few, to create some high quality fishing opportunities. And that was based on feedback we received from anglers during our engagement sessions held this January. So in addition to the guide, making that available both online and paper copies in person, we're going to be making a report on what we heard during the engagement process, available online as well. And with that, there's going to be just a kind of a quick summary of showing the specific regulation changes that are involved in the regulations this year. So what we heard, what we did with what we heard, and the management change that was made as a consequence of that. So it'll be a really nice way for us to show anybody who's interested just what we asked about, what we heard back, and then what we did with that information. So kind of close the loop there.
Yeah, so it makes it a lot easier, I guess, for the average angler to go in and see, okay, what specifically has changed and what kind of advice you folks acted on.
Exactly. And as with the last couple of years in the guide, any changes relative to 2020, are highlighted in the tables with a blue highlight, so that just quickly scanning the tables, anglers will be able to see what changed since last year.
So you mentioned some higher quality fishing opportunities at some of the stock ponds, Dave. Are we talking about reorganizing these ponds as trophy lakes or different species of fish, combination of the above?
Combination, actually. Yeah. Anglers have asked us to create some diversity of fishing opportunities, create some interesting fishing experiences at some of the stock trout water bodies. So increasing the diversity of species stocked and creating some situations where the harvest of the fish is delayed until the fish get a little bit bigger.
In terms of, I guess, the struggle that we have as anglers in this province is a finite number of lakes and fishing opportunities, Dave. And I guess from a fish management perspective, how has it changed that you look now at populations, species, the opportunity for anglers to catch and keep, that type of thing? Have you entered into a different philosophy, I guess, in terms of addressing those kinds of questions?
Well, I think yes. The short answer to that is yes, Mike. And I think one of the key aspects that we focused on is creating a portfolio of fisheries across the Alberta landscape. And by portfolio, what I'm basically indicating is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not a common or a single management approach for all walleye lakes, for example, or all stock trout fisheries. Albertans have very clearly told us that they want a diversity. They want to, not have to travel far to experience different fishing opportunities in Alberta. So we have created an approach where we basically set management objectives for our fisheries and then align the regulations in consultation with Albertans towards achieving those objectives. And so some of those objectives reflect that interest in creating a diversity of fishing experiences. That's been quite a change over the last few years here.
So fair to say that individual lakes are now being assessed based on those individual lakes rather than a cumulative approach. So if a lake can handle a specific type of harvest, then that's where your folks would look at going.
Well, certainly. So in order to create a diversity of fishing experiences, we need to know what water bodies are suitable to creating those particular types of experiences. So for us as biologists and managers, we need to use our best available science to inform that. And then we take that information out to the angling community and test it with them. If we know that they want a certain proportion of fisheries to be high quality or trophy fisheries, then we identify what those candidates could be and then present that information and those options to the angling public and see what they say about that.
Were you and the folks at AEP a bit surprised at when you looked at the number of anglers from last year? I mean, obviously we had the COVID situation and folks, I guess, maybe found more time on their hands, wanted to reconnect with angling, and we saw close to a 30% jump, I think. Did you kind of swallow hard and have to kind of look at reassessing things, or was it, hey, this is where we're going and we're moving ahead?
Well, certainly the overall increase, and not just to fishing, but other recreational activities that was observed was I guess at the time as a surprise. Looking back on it now, it makes sense that Albertans chose to go outside and do things that were COVID friendly and safe with their families and friends. And it has caused us to look at how we can respond to that, the challenge that represents the increased pressure on our fisheries and not just the water itself and the fish themselves, but the campgrounds and the boat launches and the backcountry as well. There's a lot of public land, and Albertans love to spend hunting and fishing time and just being outdoors in public land. So there's challenges with that we're addressing, and we have been collecting some information to help us respond to that challenge. One of the pieces of work we did last year was to monitor the numbers of anglers that were responding to increased harvest opportunities that were created for walleye and pike last year. And what was really interesting is that we saw that anglers, that overall fishing pressure increased, and we didn't see a real strong relative increase in fishing pressure at those lakes that had those new harvest opportunities. We thought that there might be a real strong response to anglers showing up at those fisheries to take advantage of those opportunities, and it was just an overall increase. So what that really tells us as a department is that anglers are voting with their rods, not necessarily their fry pans. They want good fishing experiences. And we have a diversity, again, of fisheries that provide those opportunities. Harvest is important, but it's not just all about harvest.
You started this conversation off, Dave, with a comment about, I guess we could just put it into the category of conservation. And that's got to be, I think, one of your key tenets in terms of why you guys do what you do. It's in order to protect, especially native fish stocks, but conservation of fish overall. On that front, is that sort of, again, a key message that you would like to have go out to the angling community in the coming year?
Absolutely, yeah. Fish conservation has to be job one. Sustainable fisheries, using those fish populations for our, the enjoyment and benefit of Albertans in the long term, keeping them healthy, keeping them sustainable is job one. And following the sport fishing regulations is an important thing that every Albertan can do to see that happen. And good fish handling practices. If fish aren't going to be kept, then putting them back in the water in a way that, treating them with respect, handling them properly, minimizing the time that they're exposed to air, for example, all good things to do to make sure that when those fish are released, they're put back in the water in a healthy state and can be caught again.
Well, I know a lot of folks are looking forward to getting their license renewals starting April 1 and going through those fishing regulations. Dave Park, as always, we really appreciate your insight and your explanation of what anglers can expect in the coming year. And hey, hopefully one day we'll get out there and do a little fishing together.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good fishing season. 2021 has a lot of promise. Thank you.